All right, now we are doing a question which is Amberjack, and this is question number 215 from your Kaplan kit. You can always see the name if the number is different in your kit. So first of all, let's go to the requirement. All right, the requirement is list 4 control objectives of Amberjack Company's sales and dispatch system. Now, we have already studied the control objectives of the sales and dispatch system. Like what are the objectives? Credit should only be given to the good credit rating customers. Only goods which were originally ordered should be dispatched. And the correct quantity should be dispatched. Proper quality should be dispatched. So list 4 control objectives. So you can write any one. So like the credit should not be given to the good credit rating customers. Order should only be accepted for the goods that we can supply. Only goods which were originally ordered should be dispatched. So these are the 4 objectives. So we'll get 1 mark for each. And then we have, as the external auditor of the Amberjack Company, write a report to the management in respect of the sales and dispatch system, in which you are going to identify and explain 7 deficiencies in the sales and dispatch system and recommends a control to address each of these deficiencies, including a covering letter. Prepare your answer using 2 columns headed control deficiency and control recommendation respectively. The total marks will be split equally between each part. 2 marks will be awarded within this requirement for the covering letter. Now, they're saying write a report to the management. So make sure when you're starting this question, obviously you'll be appearing in the computer-based exam. So you need to gain the professional marks because the format is required, which is the report to the management. So basically it's the report to management. So report to the management in respect of what? Now simply report to the management of what? The company name, write the company name, which is Amberjack Company. And obviously they're all, so the whom you're addressing. And regarding what? In respect to the sales and dispatch system, in which basically you are writing, identify and explain the deficiencies, including a covering letter. So 2 marks will be awarded. So the professional marks are basically 2 marks for this format. So this is kindly find the attached report to management pertaining to the deficiencies in the internal control system identified during the audit This also includes the recommendations. This also includes the recommendations to address the deficiencies. Okay, now once you have written this, there are few lines which are relevant to the liability of the auditor regarding the internal controls. We have studied that there is no obligation to report on the client internal control system. We have identified the deficiencies while we were doing the system testing, and the system testing was done in order to establish the auditor's approach, whether to go for less testing and detailed testing. And this has been done in order to establish that audit approach. And there may be more weaknesses and deficiencies within the system which the auditor has not identified. This is because the management should not count on us regarding this. Maybe, they're assuming that we have identified each and everything within the system. And these are the all weaknesses in their system. So we need to tell them that these are not all weaknesses. So please note that the deficiencies identified are not all the deficiencies in the system. There may be more deficiencies which are not highlighted. The deficiencies identified are done as part of the system testing to develop the audit approach. This report is only addressed to the management and is only relevant to the internal controls. So these are the few lines which you need to write because the covering letter is required. Once you have written these lines, then obviously you will be writing yours faithfully, the audit firm. Okay, then you will start writing the deficiencies. So here you will be writing the deficiency, identify and explain. Identify means the case study line, and right in front of that there would be recommendation. So 7 deficiencies we are supposed to identify. So let's read the question now. Amberjack Company manufactures and distributes car tires to a wide customer base, both in its country and across the rest of the continent. Its year end was 30th April. It is July 20x5. So there's a date given as well, which you can put over here, July 20x5. You are an audit manager of the Penfish and Company, and you are reviewing extracts of the documentation describing Amberjack Company's sales and dispatch system. Amberjack Company has grown in size over the previous 18 months. Okay, all new customers undergo credit checks prior to being accepted, and credit limits are subsequently set by the receivable ledger clerk. Now, we have already seen this type of weakness in many other questions, that the credit limits are being set by the receivable ledger clerk, and clerk is not the appropriate person to set the credit limits because of the nature of the work. This work required significant expertise, so the clerk may not be sufficiently experienced to set the credit limits, and he may set credit limits too low or too high, which may result in significant bad debts or the losses of income as well. So this is the first one. Let's just write how we can write it. First of all, you need to write the case study line because it is all about identify. The credit limit is set by the receivable ledger clerk. Clerk is not the appropriate person to set the credit limits. The credit limit may be set too high or too low due to the lack of experience and expertise, resulting in the bad debts and loss of income. Because if you are setting credit limits too high, you're giving too much credit and they're not paying you back, this will result in the bad debts. And if you're setting the credit limit too low, then obviously they will not be buying the goods from you, and this will result in the loss of income or loss of sales. So the recommendation is the credit limit should be set by some senior officials such as a receivable manager or finance manager. Also, these limits should be subsequently reviewed on regular basis, because maybe there are customers who are going fine with the company and their credit limit should be enhanced. Maybe there are customers who are problematic and accordingly their credit limit should be reduced. So this should be regularly monitored and reviewed. Now going further, yes. Subsequently set by the receivable clerk who record the new customer details, assign a unique customer number, and set credit limits in the master file. So the company's credit controller is currently on secondment to the internal audit department, that he has moved to the other department for 6 months and no replacement has been appointed. So the company's credit controller is on the secondment and he's working in the internal audit department and there is no replacement. It's just a long period. So the credit controller is on the secondment to the internal audit department for 6 months and there is no replacement. There is no replacement. Now this is the identification. Now we need explanation. This may result in an increased number of bad debts or irrecoverable debts. This may result in an increased number of irrecoverable debts and payments not being received on timely basis, resulting in the cash flow problems. So the credit controller is on the secondment and there's no replacement. So if there's no one monitoring the credit function, then obviously the customer will get lenient and they might not pay at all. They might delay the payments, and accordingly, this may result in increased bad debts and also the cash flow problems for the company. The company should appoint an alternative member or person having experience and expertise to perform the responsibilities of credit controller in his absence. So an alternative member should be appointed so that that person should having experience, because that person should have that experience. Customers wishing to order goods telephone the company's sales audit team, audit department, and provide their unique account details. Sequentially numbered 4-part sales orders are generated for all orders after checking available inventory levels. Now this looks fine because obviously the company should check the inventory levels. 1 copy is retained by the sales ordering team to enable them to monitor progress of the sales orders. So one copy is with the ordering team because to trace the orders. One copy is sent to the customer. One copy is sent to one of the company's warehouses for dispatch, and one file copy is sent to the finance department. Again, this looks fine as well. Upon dispatch, a three-part goods dispatch note is completed, which is assigned the same sequential number as the order number. One copy is sent with the goods, one remains with the warehouse, and one is sent to the finance department. So this is the weakness. Goods dispatch notes having the same number as same sequential number as the order number. So GDN are given the same number as order number. This may result in difficulty to identify if any GDNs are missing. Because they're having the same number, GDNs are giving the same number as order number. So this may result in difficulty to identify if any GDNs are missing. Because the reason for that is the orders may be different. They may not be dispatched in the same sequential number. Some orders are small, some orders are big. So in that case, this will result in a deficiency. Okay, so we have GDNs should be sequentially numbered, which is different from order numbers.